Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, basically, we'll be building a to-do list component. This is a demo of what we'll be building by the end of this video. We'll be having to-do list component where we can enter to-dos. Let me write to-do 3 and just add it. We can delete to-dos, we can select or deselect them, and we can persist them. The persisting will be happening using local storage as well as IndexedDB. So I think with this, I think we can get started with the coding part. We already have an index.html which has an ESM module and which has an index.js file which is basically instantiating a to-do class, which I'll be getting back to now. Just let me explain other parts. Then we have index.html where I'm having a to-do list, which I'm referencing again in the todo.js as well as in index.js. Okay. We have a styles, some basic styles we have, which just is a basic style we can come back to later. And I think that's it. We can now get started. Before going with the coding part, let me explain about how we're going to go about structuring the code. I want to do something different with this video and maybe another video on Kanban board as well. But for this video, what I'm planning to do is like we'll be having components. So as you can see, we have this to do. This is going to be the main component. We'll be having sub components. Like I'll be having component for this input as well as the button. Which is going to be add item component. Then we'll be having a component which is going to contain all these items like we have normally in any kind of React or Vue application. Then we'll be having a list component which is going to contain input, the text as well as a delete button. So for that, now let me create those components itself here, first of all. And what we'll be doing is like we'll be having CSS styles also for each of them. So let me write that also. Now I'll be using those styles in the style.css. This syntax should be familiar with you, I guess, if you have used any kind of white, basically used white to create any project. Syntax should come somewhere, I guess. So basically we're going to import all the styles. So let me first import item container. So I basically added all the styles now. So that basically we can use those styles in our project now for each component. So now with this out of the way, I think we can come with the main crux, or you can say the API of this whole component of this whole application. So this API is going. I am planning to make this API quite reusable. Okay. So first of all, let me write services. This API is going to be the place where we'll be using local storage IndexedDB as well as for now an in-memory storage. Okay. So for that, let me write let items. I'll be having couple of functions like get items, which is going to get our items. For now, it's going to return the items array here. And save items is basically going to save the items. Before further writing the logic, let me create couple of functions which we are going to use thoroughly throughout this whole project. I'll be adding those in the utils.js. The first will be a function which is going to create a DOM component from the HTML which we pass. Get Without going too much into details, as you can see, we are creating some, we are basically going to take the HTML and it's going to basically return us the DOM element. Okay, this could have been done in different ways using inner HTML or using document fragment or maybe DOM parser. I'm using this way because I felt it was more optimal, you can say, which is highly debatable again. But there are different ways you could have went with a different approach itself, but I'm using this approach. Okay. And here I want to show something called JSDocs also. As you can see, the HTML is a string. So what we can write here is like HTML, and our VS Code is going to use this JSDoc, I guess, for us to highlight the HTML itself. So as if now you can see HTML, it knows it's a string. Now suppose if I remove this comment, it's a comment, so it's not a big deal now, I guess, for us to have it. And it's quite common in GitHub open source projects, I guess. I see a lot of them in there. As you can see, we have the HTML. So now if suppose we can now, before previously you might have noticed that I was not able to get the trim function. But now, as you can see, we are able to use the trim function here. So it becomes very easy for us to write code. I'll be using in some places other than this also. And one more function will be to generate a random ID. We can basically highlight also that it's a number. Oh, by the way, just let me show you. If you would like to get the JS doc, you need to write slash star star. So automatically will come with the, as you can see, JS doc comment. You just need to type, basically press enter, and you can now type it. You need to have a curly brace here and number. It's gonna be number. As you can see that it's gonna say generate ID is number. Okay, now we can come back to our API.js. Here, what we'll do is like we'll tell that items is gonna be a variable. Okay, so for this we need to write. First of all, we need to declare what is an item. For that, I have to write at type def item, which is going to be a type of object, which is going to have property of ID, which is going to be, I think it should be maybe here. Property ID is going to be number. I think it was correct only. Property ID is number. Then it's also going to contain a boolean. Not sure why. I think I'm doing some mistake here. This should be an item first of all, and this should be here, not here. ID. Then I'll be needing a boolean. As you can see, it's working fine. Then we're gonna have the completed property as well as ID, boolean, as well as text, which is gonna be string. So we are gonna have text here. So we are gonna have the item. Now what we can say here is like this is gonna be at the rate of type item. So by default, we could have used numbers. As you might have noticed in the utils, we have done that. But if you would like to create a custom type, like how we have in TypeScript, I'm not going too much in depth there. But if you would like to create your own custom types, you can use at typedef to create your own custom types and use it wherever you want. As you can see, items is an item. Now I've written it, it's an array of items. So that now it highlights it properly. So when we are sending get item is gonna TypeScript basically VS Code is gonna be smart enough to know that we are sending an we're basically sending items as you can see here. Similarly, when we're saving items, we need to again saying any. So we need to be explicit here somewhat that we would like to store items array. Cool. Now let me create some couple of functions which are going to be used quite a lot in our project using our to do component. So one is going to be add item. Another function is going to be update item. Another function is going to be delete item. So now what you do for the add item, we're going to take the items and we are going to basically take the text of the new item. And for update item, we are going to take the again the items and we're going to take the updated item. For delete item, something similar, we have to take the items and the ID which you would like to delete. So now for the add item, let me just help myself out by just using JSDocs so that it becomes easier for me to write code. So items is going to be item array, tab, it's going to be string, save. Similarly, I'll just copy this part. I'll just avoid writing too much types. This is enough, I guess, for you to understand JSDocs, I guess. So I'll be skipping now after this, writing JSDocs. If you're interested, let me know if you would like me to go more deep down JSDocs any other video as such. But I think this was enough for us to get basically you understand JSDocs enough, I guess. So now we can just start writing. So let new item basically write the function body now. So what we've done is like we have taken the items, we have basically created a new item with the text which we passed. We have given created the ID to generate ID using our functions. And here it's a very important thing. You need to write JS. We are not using any bundlers here. So writing JS is very important for JSON models to work properly. Otherwise, it's going to throw errors to in our console. Okay. So now we are pushing it to the items, and we are basically pushing. We are basically saving the items, and we are returning a new item. For update item, I need to find the old index. That old. As you can see now, I have to write manually everything. VS Code is not helping me here. So it becomes very easy to use JSDocs if you are using a project which doesn't have TypeScript requirement as such, or there's a mandatory that you don't can't use TypeScript for some reason. So I got the old item index. Now I have to find the old item itself also. I'm not handling a lot of error cases where the update item was not there and etc. Because this API is going to be used only by the to-do list component. So I think this is enough for us to just get by. But you could have added extra checks whether the item has not been found, etc. etc. But I'm keeping simple. So I need to get the old item now. And if for some reason if you don't get the old item, no, I'll just assume it's gonna be there. So since I got the old item, what I'll do is like I have to replace that in the items array because I'm updating the item itself. So I have to go update items dot splice. I have to take the index where I have to splice it, which is gonna be the first index, old item index. Then I have to give the delete count, which is gonna be one in our case, and I'm planning to replace it now. So I'll just take the old item and I'm gonna just modify the completed because that's the only thing which is gonna be updated. Nothing else is gonna be updated here. Only the this is gonna be updated. Okay. So completed is gonna be what updated item dot completed. After that we have to save the items. I don't think I need the update item somewhere. I'll see if I require then I'll send it also. Now for delete item I'll just copy some of this code. Copy, paste. Item ID will be equal to just ID in our case because I'm just gonna be sending the ID, not anything else. Old item I'll get it. I don't need the updated item. I'll just come here and delete it. And I'm gonna save it. I think this should work fine, I guess. Update item, I think if it requires, I'll add it. Otherwise, we'll just keep it like this. We'll see whether it requires another pizza or not. I think this is done with the API. Currently, it's going to be only in the local storage, not local. It's just going to be memory. Whenever I do browser refresh, it's going to completely remove everything. So we're going to look into that also now. Okay, and I think we can start it with the to-do component now. Now we need to continue with the to-do component. So I think we can get started. Let me close the API.js and minimize this also. To-do.js, and let me write a class for this and do the basic stuff which we have been doing in the other videos also. We're basically taking a user config and the default config and merge them together. Okay. And we'll basically try to find a container which we have got from the user, and if we don't find it, we're not going to execute the rest of the code. Now we need to write a logic for the other two components also because we'll be using that in the to-do component. So let me write the add item as well as the items container. Let me first write the items container. This is going to have a DOM element which is going to represent the items container class in our UI because React, Vue, etc. All these frameworks do the same thing, like how to manage the UI as well as the state. So that's the whole thing which we have to manage ourselves in this to-do application. We're going to be using the utils function which we created, get element from HTML here, and it's config. So let me write some other name, maybe get HTML. That's it. Get element. That's it. And we need to add .js. For some reason, it doesn't add for me. If it adds for it's good, because you need to add it. Otherwise, it's going to give you error. So what I'll do is like I'll be cheating here somewhat. Otherwise, it's going to become too much big for me to copy paste everything. So we have a div class. So I'll just add items container class to it. And this is going to give us a DOM element. I'll be coming back to items container later on. But for now, I can come back to add item. I'll just copy this code and just do minimal changes. I'll be having add list. So add list is going to have a lot of stuff. So let me copy that. Edit HTML. Come here and paste it. I can have a tabs for these also. So this should work fine, I guess. And the items, yeah, it should be add item. The add item is also going to get a callback function, which we need to call whenever any new element is added here. Okay. So we need to write on add item callback. We'll be doing that in a to do. First of all, let me write the logic here itself. So this dot this dot top element dot query selector button dot add event listener. This becomes so handy if you see, like, I don't write a lot of code like you might have noticed in my previous videos because of JSDocs, because this DOM element is getting an HTML element. I think so, yeah. So you can see element, and using the DOM element, I can basically add the query selector. Okay. Uh, anyway, so we have the on click event E. Now this can find the input element just before it, so we can get this input element equal to E dot target dot previous element sibling. It should be a activity. And if the value, if it is for some reason not there or false, you can say, then we're gonna alert the user to please enter the value. Basically, if the user tries to add to do without adding basically anything like here, so I'll be having something here. Please enter value, or you can say task. Else, if it has it, then I'll call the function on add item callback, passing in the value. Let me do one thing. Let me have the value here itself. I need to pass the value here, and I need to clear the input also. Empty string. This should do it, I guess. Now, you might be thinking about on add item callback. Let me get to it now. So what we have in the to do, we need to basically will be having appending those two items inside the container. So first we'll create those items. Let add item element equal to new add item. This is important. You need to have the JS, and this is gonna contain the function this dot add new item, and which is gonna have the bind, which is basically gonna have the this refer to the to do class. This is required. Why? Because let me explain first of all. Like if you're getting confused, since in React, Vue, etc., we have the props dealing concept. You can say somewhat I'm doing somewhat trying to do something similar here. I'm basically passing the function as a argument to the add item constructor, so that whenever the add user clicks on the button, it's gonna basically call this add item callback with the value, which is gonna basically invoke in here in the todo.js. I'll be creating one more function here, add item, which is gonna get the value which I'm passing from the add item.js here. So with that value, what will happen is like we can call, we can basically append an item to another components list, which is gonna be here. Okay, so in view or other we could have passed props, etc. Something similar you can say here. What I'm doing is I'm trying to pass a function as a prop, you can say. So anyway, here we need to have the element, and for container, add item DOM element. Similarly for the items container also. So whenever, let me add JS there. So whenever whenever the add new input gets invoked, This is going to be called and it's going to basically append a new item to the new items container. So here it's better to do this dot so that I can refer it everywhere else. Also add item element and this dot items container also. So what I can do is like I can have a function inside this dot items container which is going to be referenced with the same name, which is going to get the value here from here. I'll write that logic later on, but I think this should be clear now, I guess. So with that, I think we can now come back to add item. I think is done. We need to come back to items container. We need to add a lot of logic here now. I think before going further with the items container, let me come back to item itself. Let me finish that because there will be a lot of overlap between item and items container. So let me just copy this some of the code from here. And let me copy the markup from somewhere here. The item container is going to get a constructor, the constructor function of the item. It's going to get the item, and this item I'll be passing it here also. This is important. Mm, Here I'll be having item.id, copy. Similarly here also. I'll be using the item IDs to uniquely identify which items have been clicked. Instead of having an event listener for each of the items, I'll be having event listener only on the item container on the click event. And based on this ID, is going to identify which item has been clicked, and which item's checkbox or delete button has been clicked. That also. So that's why I'm using that. This should be fine, I guess. And one more thing is like for some edge case scenarios might happen. Like suppose if we click on this checkbox and if we refresh, this might by default get set to false like this. Okay, so to avoid those kind of weird scenarios, I need to do something here also. So I need to check checkbox equal to DOM element dot query selector. It's gonna have type equal to check box. By default, I'll just check equal to if the item which has been passed to us, if it's completed is true, then the checked will be true. Otherwise, it's gonna be false. This is to handle those HK scenarios like I told you just now. Save. Let me see if I've missed out anything. Type equal to checkbox. This should work fine. We'll see if anything is an issue later on. So now we can come here and just add a couple of things. First of all, for the to do container, we need to add the add new item function here. This is gonna get a value, and this is gonna allow us to add. And in the constructor, we need to also call a function called this.init, which is gonna basically do a lot of stuff for us. Let me add it here after the get element. This is gonna call a function called setup listeners, which is gonna have our click listener logic. Then we're gonna have something called items, which is we're gonna get it from get items function, which we created in our API.js. Did I not export it? And post that we're gonna call something called render items. As the name says, it's gonna render those items. Everything should have this on it. So let me first go one by one. Setup listeners is gonna have it's gonna basically register an event listener on the DOM element. It's gonna be the click listener. It's gonna get the event, and we need to get the ID from it. The ID is gonna be the items. As you can see, these IDs, like I told you previously. The checkbox is also gonna have ID, and the delete button also is gonna have an ID. I'm gonna use that. So I'll be getting the ID from it. And if for some reason I don't have an ID, it's better for me to go back. If for some edge case scenarios. Otherwise, if I have them, what I'll do is like I'll check whether the e.target dot class list contains the class of checkbox. Then we'll handle the checkbox logic. Else if it has the class of item delete, then we'll delete the item. I'll be basically getting the value from it. So it can be the checked value, which is gonna be I think e.target dot checked. And I'll call a function called update existing element. Which is gonna get the checked value. Similarly, I'll be calling this dot delete existing element, which is gonna get only the ID. And these are gonna be functions which are gonna be present here outside. So you can copy them. We'll be writing more logic for that. But other than that, we need to have the add new item function as with the render items. So for the render items, we need to basically iterate through the items, and for each item, we need to basically call the sorry another line itself, item itself, and pass the item to it. That is it. It should do. And add new item is again gonna this dot items dot push new item value. So whenever I'm no, I need to basically first call the function new item. Like the API, basically I have the new item here, as you can see, add item. It's gonna give us the new item, which we have to pass to the constructor function. So hence I'll call the add item. We- Yeah, it's coming up. I'll pass in the value. It's gonna return us the item which has the ID number, text, etc. That will pass to the new item. Let me see whether I'm correct or not. It's going to take the item and it just needs the ID, but I'll be passing everything here. Is it? Yeah. So it's going to take the item and it's going to push to the new item. Uh, I think I'm not sure whether I've noticed, or I think I've made a couple of mistakes with that item. First of all, you need to pass the items here as well as the text, which is going to be the value. And for the items, first of all, for the rendering one, we need to render it to the UI as well. So we need to do this dot DOM element dot append child. We need to call the new item, hit the item, then we need to get a DOM element of it. Okay. And for the target list also, I think we might need the ID also. So ID, I'll pass it. For delete existing element, I think ID should be ID should suffice. So let's get the ID from here. and I need to call the update item. This I need to pass the items again, and I need to pass an updated item, which is gonna be ID. I need to pass a number of it. I need to convert a number because whenever I try to extract anything out of the DOM, it's gonna be stringified, the data sets. That's why I need to convert them to number because that's what we are expecting. And for completed, it's gonna be just value. For delete existing item, I need to first of all remove from the UI as well as I need to update the state. So hence I'll do this dot DOM element dot children. I would like to use a for each method, hence I'll basically convert that to the syntax. You could have used array dot from also if you want, but anyway, set node if node dot get attribute data if an ID if it's equal to the ID which I got, then I would like to remove that node. And I need to call the delete item function, passing it items as well as the ID. I think the ID also here also should be converted to number. Okay, this should suffice, I guess. Now maybe we can see the output of it we've already written. Now let's see if we have a lot of errors. I'm assuming there are some errors. Add item element is not defined. Yeah, it is not defined. So this needs to be this dot add element. Similarly, this dot items container. Me refresh console. Let's see if it works. Please enter task. It's for some reason giving us an issue. Let me check it out. Let me first of all close all of them. It's getting annoying. Items container. No, we need to check the add item. And here the issue is coming up. Let me put a debugger to it. Ignore the stylings for now. Sorry about that. I think I did a very silly mistake. If the value is not there, then we need to call alert. Otherwise, we'll be calling this. It should be opposite. Close to do one. Weird. Whenever we're basically adding the item, it's gonna call the on add item callback, which is gonna come here to do.js. It's gonna call items container dot add new item with the value. Let me add a debugger here also. I think I could have went anyway inside. So value I'm getting here. And add item is also coming here. Then I'm sending the items as well as the value. Let's see whether I'm getting an item or not. Yes, I'm getting a new item. This dot items dot push. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I missed out. Like how I've done for here, I need to do something here also. So I'll be doing copy. And I don't need to do uh, here anything much. Like by add item, whenever I do, let me show you if you're getting confused. I'm already doing items.push, so I don't need to do any push here. I just need to do DOM element or append child, new item. I just need to pass the new item here, like how I've done for the render items, and this should work fine now. Hopefully, let's see. As you can see, it's coming up fine. Yeah, and let me remove the debugger from here. And let me just add the stylings. So let me come back. I've added those stylings now. It was not so much of a CSS video because I don't want to get this video already quite long. It's already quite long, I guess. So hence, as you can see, I've added those styles and you can see the output also here. So let me write to do one. We have to do one. We can add and delete. Okay. So let me clear this out. Now what we do is like, let me open it again. Now, by the currently now what we have is like if suppose I add it to do one or two, and if I add it and if I refresh it, it's gonna go because it's in current in memory. So what I'll do is like I'll be using local storage as well as IndexedDB now. So for local storage, I'll have to do very minimal changes since the code is quite structured now. Local storage API.js. I just need to implement a couple of functions here, which will not be nothing but export function get items and save items. Let me just first to minimize this. I'll just get the items first. Let items equal to JSON dot parse. I'll have to give a key also. To do list. Then I need to parse it. And suppose the keys are not there for the first scenario, then I need to just instead of parse, I need to do local storage dot get item key. If suppose keys are there, and if then it's good. If it's not there, then I'm passing in this basically empty array so that it doesn't throw us an error while parsing it because we need to stringify basically we need to parse whatever input we get from local storage. So that's it. And similarly for save items also. We need to stringify and save it. So let's see now. We need to come to API. Instead of these items and all, I'll do one thing. I'll just remove itself. It's not required. And I'll import the local storage now. As storage, you'll understand the reason just a minute later. Now I'll just call storage dot items. No, storage dot get items. Similarly, I need to just call storage dot save items and pass the items. Let me now show you the memory. Not memory, it's going to be application, local storage. Let me clear unnecessary stuff, refresh it to do one, add it. I have added it, and for some reason it's not showing here. Let me refresh it. Oh, sorry, it was not refreshing. So now I'll add one more to do two. As you can see, it's added. Now if I update it, it's going to become true. And for some reason, it's getting overridden completely. Let me check that. But first of all, if you notice, I think I missed out something. Let me check the update item now. Okay, I found the issue, quite silly ones, I guess. First was this, you need to have equal equals, triple equals, and here you need to have old item index. I think some of you might have guessed by now, I guess, anyway. So this is the one issue. And I think one more thing which I would think I had messed up previously was you need to have here dynamic variable also, because we would like the item to reflect the text which it has. So now let me refresh it and come run it again. To do one, I had a one debugger here itself somewhere. Now if I had to do two, as you can see, let me open the local storage. We have this. Now if I click on it, it comes true, false, true, false, true. And if I refresh, it still persists. And let me show you, if I don't have this line, it's not going to persist. That's it. This line is required. Save. Okay. And similarly, if I delete, it deletes it. As you can see, it's correct in the memory also. To do three, add. And if I don't try to add anything and need to add it, and if I delete it, it's deleted. This was using local storage. Now we need to add IndexedDB also, like I told previously. Instead of going completely full throttle on IndexedDB, the low-level API which browser provides us, I'll be using something called IDB key value library itself. And since we don't have a bundler, I'll be using it from the CDN link. And I feel it is a good way to get started, at least because local storage only gives you 5 MB maximum limit. So you can't do a lot of extra stuff on the browser if you're interested in doing it. And I assume if you want to do at any point of time any heavy browser stuff, you will be going towards IndexedDB. So I think it's good to know. And for getting started, I think the IDB key value library is good to go. So I'll just do that now. This is the link which I'm going to use in IDB key val. I'll just copy the key from here. Okay. And I'll just copy these functions and just modify them for our use cases. So first of all, in local storage, we need to store it in stringified format, but it doesn't require in the IndexedDB. So hence we can just directly send it. So first of all, when we are getting the items, we don't need to do extra stuff, but we need to call await because it's a, what should I say, promise-based syntax. Everything is asynchronous here, which when you interact with IndexedDB. So you need to handle those scenarios also. Await get key, and write async here. And if for some reason, if you don't have the keys, I can just directly pass array, empty array, and I can just send items. Okay. And for save items, I have set key items. Now for the API, for it to work here, we need to do very minor changes. I just need to copy this, comment it, and write IndexedDB. And since we don't have anything in the IndexedDB, it's going to give us issues. And there are a couple more issues also. First of all, we need to handle async functions here. And since it's going to be returning us a promise, where is it? IndexedDB API. It's going to get the result and it's going to return us the items. I think, where is it? Yeah. APIs, we need to await, get the items. After getting the items, we need to basically come to this function is coming up because let me show you with the help of debugger if you're not completely clear what's happening there. Which file was it? Items container. Let me open debugger here. Save. As you can see here, it's saying items is a promise pending. Since it's a promise, we need to await for it in simple terms. So I'll just do await here. And since I'm using await here, I need to put async here. Save, refresh. Now everything should work fine. Now let me show you in our memory now. We have something IndexedDB. We have a key val store. I'm not going too much into depth there. We have a key val. Now if I start adding something to do one, add. As you can see, saying data may be stale, so you need to refresh it. As you can see, we have something here. Now if I update it, again it says data may be stale. You need to again refresh it, expand it. You can see it's saying true. Similarly, we can add more data also. 222. and if we can check that, refresh, delete. As you can see, everything works fine, and we can easily toggle also now the way I've written the code. You just need to come here and just need to uncomment and comment, refresh. As you can see, to do 3 is coming and to do 3 is only present in local storage. Okay, I think this was it of this whole video, I guess. Do like and subscribe this video so that it motivates me to make more such videos, and lets me know at least that this videos are helping out anyone at least. Okay, and thanks and bye.